Welcome to Liquid Lunch with the Regional Water Authority. This is your refreshing rendezvous with all things that matter in the greater New Haven region. We are here to quench your thirst for knowledge and dive deep into what makes this area great. So prepare to sip on stimulating conversation and pour out insights that hydrate your mind. Join us as we navigate through the currents of current events, ensuring that every drop of information leaves you feeling replenished and revitalized. My name is Kevin Watsey, and I am the resident water nerd here at 103.5 WNHH. If this is your first time listening to the show, the rules of the game are simple. Get a big glass of tap water, sit back, and enjoy your liquid lunch. On today's show, we are honored to welcome Garrett Sheehan. He's the president and CEO of the Greater New Haven Chamber of Commerce. We invited Garrett on the show because I want to hear his thoughts on the regional economy, what makes this area great for business, maybe some of the challenges that businesses are having right now, and what his organization does specifically to support business in this area. As we do every show, we're going to give Garrett a chance to tell us a story. You know, what was his path to being the president of the chamber? Consider it kind of like the comic book version of the origin story. So, Garrett, with that, welcome to Liquid Lunch, and tell us your story.
Great. Thanks, Kevin. Really appreciate it. My story with getting to the chamber, really my involvement in economic development and always being interested in how we continue to grow our state, loving Connecticut and wanting it to be a great place for business, but not only for jobs for everyone, jobs for the people that are in my family. And so I've just had a passion for economic development for a long time, and a position opened up at the chamber, and I was fortunate that the board at the time at the chamber really wanted to put a focus on economic development, and so it made me the right candidate for that job.
And how long have you been there?
Going on more than 6 years now. So it was all the way back in 2018 that I came to the chamber, and and I should say too, it's my career path is a long and winding road. I'm not sure that there's a perfect pathway to become chamber president or any of the positions with the chamber. I've served in the military. Lawyer, business degree, TV news reporter, so a little bit of everything. But all of those different career paths, they all led back to being engaged with business. One of my favorite things when I was a reporter was going to meet with other businesses and just hear their story, find out how they did things, how they made things work. I always thought those were fun kinds of stories to be able to do. And so that really plays into what we do at the chamber, and just speaking with so many businesses, or even if it's on the policy side. When I was a reporter, I did a lot around legislature, business regulation, other issues that would come up.
See, and this is why I do this segment, because, so you were a news reporter, you were in the armed services, what branch?
I was in the Army.
Oh, thank you for your service.
Thanks.
And you're a lawyer. See, that's why I do this, because I didn't know any of those things about you, see? So thank you for telling us your story. I wanted to kick off the show with what makes sense to me. Talk a little bit about the chamber, the history of the chamber. I've been a member of a lot of chambers in my career in a bunch of different states, and I can honestly tell you no chamber I've ever been involved with has been around for 230 years, yet I found myself recently at a celebration of the Greater New Haven Chamber's 230th anniversary. Actually kind of having a hard time wrapping my mind around what a chamber would have done 230 years ago. But could you just give us a little bit of history of your chamber and what exactly they were doing in the late 1700s, early 1800s, and kind of the evolution of it over the past 200 plus years?
Yeah, definitely. Well, that means the only other two chambers that are older or business associations are in New York and Charleston. So you must not have been a member of those organizations.
I was not.
So we are the third oldest business association. And it actually, the chamber was brought about by a bunch of business people, but specifically in shipping, getting together, wanting to deal with issues that they had around sailing their ships. Number one was pirating. So issues that seem a little distant, but were really important in 1794, and brought people together around this idea of let's have an association of businesses. Continued to grow throughout the years. I'm always interested. There's so many different initiatives that started in New Haven through the chamber, whether it was working to bring together funds for a hospital or additional firefighting equipment. We're talking back in the 1800s, or fast forwarding the State Street Station was an idea that initiated at the chamber and worked closely with the city and the state to make that happen. So lots of different public policy opportunities that ferment within the chamber membership, the needs of the business community, and then bringing those forward so that really good things can happen. Whenever I say that the chamber is 230 years old, I want to make sure that people know we don't have that mindset. We are fresh, new. We're not a dinosaur. The business environment, the needs of businesses are constantly changing, and the chamber has to keep up with that. We're fortunate that we have an active and engaged membership, and they're always telling us what's impacting them and really leading us to where we need to be as far as the issues that are impacting business. I mean, one that I think every single business owner or business person is dealing with right now is AI. And whenever we put on a webinar or a conversation about AI, we have a huge turnout of business members. And that just states, too, that's the issue, that's the topic of the day, and it's the thing that we need to continue to bring to our membership.
Right, and AI was a big topic up in Hartford over this session, too, and I believe that bill failed, correct?
That is correct.
And so you're not up there talking about legislation dealing with pirates, right? You kind of moved past the pirating phase
there's probably many forms of pirating today.
That's
but,
true,
you know,
yeah, that's true.
Not the ship and sail type.
So how big is your team over at the chamber right now?
Well, we're in a great spot right now. We have a very large team. We're up to 17 employees. But I will caution, I always want people wonder, well, what's 17 employees doing? Well, we do have 2 chambers of commerce. We have a great affiliation with the Quinnipiac Chamber of Commerce, which is the chamber that covers Wallingford and North Haven. So we have a team that's based in Wallingford. We have the rest of our team that serves for the Greater New Haven Chamber. And the chamber really has a dual purpose I like to talk about. We do all the things that you would think of a chamber doing: large events, introductions, working with the business community, taking care of our members, whatever those issues may be. Things you have to do as any type of small business are marketing, putting those events on, office administration. So we have all those functions. But we're also, and this is a part where the Regional Water Authority is a big supporter, really focused on regional economic growth. And so we've been fortunate over the last several years to get involved with many different grants, and that's helped us expand our staff and put staff people into those positions directly impacting those key functions that go into regional economic growth. And so that really has expanded our staff, where probably early on in the pandemic we were down to 8 or 9 employees, and we've grown significantly. Again, a lot of that is based on grants, and those kind of come and go, but we're able to address a lot of the economic needs that are going on in Greater New Haven right now.
So, and I do want to talk about the program that the RWA has been working with the chamber on. But so you got about 17 employees split between these 2 chambers. How many members between the 2 chambers?
We're at about 1,200 members between both chambers, and so that's obviously a lot of businesses. There's a lot of businesses that are not members, so we obviously would like to get involved. What we say is we are always working on behalf of the business community, whether you're a member of the chamber or not. We are doing things to support your business. We hope that more members or more businesses will be part of the chamber, because that allows us to do even more. But our focus is to make Greater New Haven a great place to do business. And so whether that's advocating from a public policy standpoint, working on workforce initiatives, providing events or activities that bring the business community together so they can talk about the issues they're facing and work collaboratively, and really just promoting Greater New Haven as a place to do business.
You had mentioned the pandemic. I'd be curious on your thoughts. Has the region, the economy, the business environment, 5 years later now, do you think it's recovered, or are we still seeing some impact from COVID? I know the whole virtual hybrid working thing is still out there, but what have you seen with your 1,200 or so members? Are we back?
Yeah, definitely back. Changes that occurred, many for the better, are still there, and I don't think ever going back. You mentioned remote work. I think we are going to have more remote work forever, and in most ways that's probably a good thing. People have found a way to make that work with their life, and businesses have found a way to make that work with their business. You uniquely, New Haven was well positioned for the rebound from COVID, I believe. We had a very strong community, strong city to begin with, but New Haven did not have a overabundance of office space, did not have an overabundance of vacancies, which is something that a lot of cities were dealing with even before COVID. So it left New Haven in a good position, in my opinion, once we got through most of the health issues, and obviously a horrible event for the city and for all of our people in the region. But from a business standpoint, coming out of that, as people switched to remote work, there wasn't as much office space that already was sitting there vacant that needed to be filled. Definitely a lot of people sized down on what they were using in New Haven as well. But that was a much more manageable amount of office space to get back into function. So I don't think that, unlike other cities, New Haven had the huge dramatic impact. Well, let me take that back. It was a huge dramatic impact, but versus other locations, that recovery went faster to get people back into New Haven. The other thing about New Haven is that it always has had a vibrancy about its downtown, about its other business districts within the city. A lot of that driven by our universities being so close, and not just Yale, all of our universities that are in close proximity, lots of students and activity. And I think that vibrancy came back fairly quickly, obviously in different spurts. Lunch business took a longer time to recover, but people wanted to be in New Haven. And so I think that kept that energy that we've always had.
Yeah, you mentioned the university. So I'm new to the area, and I was kind of blown away by the concentration of higher education in this area. How many universities there are in such a small area. No real question there. It's just something that kind of caught me off guard from being in New Jersey and New York. I'm not used to having so many universities so close by.
Well, I'll comment on that. I mean, I really think that is one of our keys to our region are these 6 universities, colleges that we have right here: Yale University, Southern Connecticut State University, Gateway Community College, Albertus Magnus, University of New Haven, and Quinnipiac University. First off, they bring incredible amount of ideas, innovation that occurs, but all of the students, and I don't know what it is versus other locations, but it seems like, because there's definitely areas of the country where you have multiple universities within a generally compact area, but sometimes it doesn't feel like it. They're very separated from everything else.
Yeah.
I feel like our universities, the students, the activity really spills over into New Haven itself. Definitely, there's definitely portions where, boy, that's on campus, people aren't there, but a lot of it really does feed the energy and the vibe of New Haven, and I think really gives us more of even a startup entrepreneurial feel inside the city.
That's a good perspective, and I just riding my bike around the city, it definitely feels like a young, vibrant kind of city, and I'm sure just the concentration of young folks, me not being so young anymore, I even hate saying young folks, but the concentration of young folks, younger than us. Couple more questions about the chamber, and then we'll kind of move on. With your membership, what's the split between large and small business? Would you say you're majority big business or majority smaller business?
Majority small business. We definitely, as a chamber, we're driven by our large businesses. We could not have the robust type of chamber that we have if we didn't have a really strong commitment from our larger businesses. But New Haven is really made up of small businesses, and I would even say medium businesses. If you look at Hartford versus New Haven, one of the things we don't have here is that huge legacy of large corporations. Look at the insurance capital and those very large insurance companies. We don't have that here in New Haven, which I think has led us always to rely more on small businesses, medium-sized businesses, creates a lot more energy and activity, more entrepreneurship, and momentum for the business community overall. It's definitely great to have that kind of support from large businesses, and the ones that we do have in the greater New Haven area have been great supporters of the chamber. But it is kind of, I think, feeds into kind of the some of the energy and vibe that we have in New Haven is that we do have a lot of small businesses, and that kind of energy, that spirit of innovation, spirit to build something really feeds into the overall business community.
That's great. So because this is Liquid Lunch, and I'm a water nerd, I couldn't get through this interview without asking at least one water-related question. Because my personal view, water is essential to everything. And so I wanted to talk to you because you got your kind of, hands on the pulse of the economy. What do you think the importance of having clean, reliable, ample water supply is to economic growth for a region? Is it just me, or can a region grow if it doesn't have a reliable water supply?
No, it's a critical asset that I think a lot of people take for granted all of the time. Water is extremely involved in many business processes. Now we've had a great run of new breweries. And so it's a really easy connection point I think people can have. You can understand how important water is. What's been interesting about hearing from them is what a difference the quality makes. Whereas in other locations, they may have to process the water a couple of times before putting it into their system. Here, what I've been told is our companies that use water in their actual product are able to take it directly from the source, from the tap, from the regional water authority, without additional processing, which a lot of us, myself included, up until very recently, were not aware or thinking about what that water quality is. But I know that's something that the RWA takes extremely seriously, just even in the amount of testing and operations that the organization has. So that's a great asset to know, especially for someone like myself who is an economic developer, is going around talking to people about, why should your business be in Greater New Haven? So if water is something that's really important to your product or to your process, the quality is high here. But also we have an abundance of water, which has been an interesting thing to learn as well. We all have seen for decades stories of droughts that occur in other parts of the country, and we've definitely had periods of time where we've received less rain here in the Northeast. But in this region, we are blessed with an extremely large water supply, many reservoirs. The usage of water through different conservation measures has actually reduced, even though we still are growing as a region. And so, from my understanding, it leaves us with a huge quantity of water for companies that need to use that in their process. People may be surprised to hear, manufacturers, technology companies that are making something, water can be incredibly important in the process of how they make it, having to clean off. You could think of steel making and different activities like that. We have a chemicals plant in our region. We have many different types of companies that use water as part of that process. So to be able to have that asset here, we have an abundance and we have really high quality. And for those companies, when they get into those detailed decision-making processes about where are they going to be, that's something that can make a difference.
Yeah, I would also add, water quality obviously is very important, but also reliability, right? The infrastructure. If you're a company that relies on a steady stream of water and there's main breaks happening every other week, that's not a reliable water supply, because now you got to shut your business down for a day or two while it's being fixed. The RWA, we're lucky. We've been not lucky, skilled. We've been investing in our infrastructure for a long time, and so we don't have a lot of main breaks, and even when we do, we're very skilled at getting them fixed very quick. So I absolutely agree with you. And like you said, a lot of businesses that you wouldn't think had a need for large amounts of water, they do. Even data farms, they use water to cool their servers. That's
right.
How they keep the computers cool. I remember one company I worked with in my old job made lenses for eyeglasses, and they used a lot of water, and it had to be very clean water, because if not, the minerals would actually put microscopic scratches on the lenses.
Yep.
So, as you said, you really don't think about the companies and what they're using the water for. Again, beyond the breweries, obviously they need water, but a lot of manufacturers need that water too.
Well, the infrastructure point is really well taken. We have density in our region, and have older infrastructure at points, but what something RWA has been doing is updating, modernizing that infrastructure as we go along. But there's parts of the country, if you're going to build a new facility, yes, it's easy in the sense because you can build on a green field, you can build just clean, fresh, but you're going to have infrastructure extended to that location where it doesn't currently exist. So that's a lot of extra cost and effort to put that in. Whereas here, there's a significant amount of infrastructure in the ground already. Now, one of our challenges is, maybe you have to deal with an older building and there's some remediation or something like that that has to take place. But at the same time, there is a benefit that those assets, those infrastructure assets, are right there, already hooked up to the facility.
Absolutely. And I'll take this point of personal privilege to talk about the RWA's economic development rate. So we actually have a rate for water that is specific to companies who locate within our service territory and use a certain amount of water, or expand within our service territory and they're using a certain amount of water. We have an entire web page on our website, ourwater.com, about economic growth and that economic development rate. So if you're out there listening now and you're thinking of expanding or moving to the area and you use a lot of water, visit our page and you'll learn how you can save some money in the first few years of business.
Now, that's a great incentive to be able to have, and to be able to tell businesses that this is another opportunity, another reason why it's great to be here. I think it sends a strong message to that, not just the RWA, but our entire region. We are open for business. We are sending out that invitation for businesses to be here and to expand here.
Absolutely. And thus ends the commercial for the Regional Water Authority and the importance of water. Just kidding. One of the things that you brought up that I did want to get into is the partnership that the RWA has had with the Chamber on a business retention and expansion program. Can you talk a little bit about that and kind of how it works and how the partnership works and what it's doing to help the economy in the region?
Yeah, thanks, Kevin. This has been a great partnership with the Regional Water Authority. Really want to thank your CEO, Larry Bingaman, for believing in this type of program and believing in economic development and economic growth for the region. Obviously, there's a great benefit to the RWA if the region is growing. That is more water users. But it takes some real vision to look just beyond that and say, how do we do this for the region? How do we do something that's good for the entire region and is going to be to the benefit of the RWA as well? And Larry's always at the forefront of that in advancing economic development. And really, this RWA's involvement in economic development has gone back many years. Before I was even in my position, RWA has supported different studies about recruitment, attraction, retaining businesses. What are the challenges that businesses are facing? And so when I came into this position, and as I mentioned, my background was in economic development, and that's what I was really looking to bring to the Chamber. Chamber has been involved in economic development forever. When you're helping businesses, that is economic development. But we were trying to have a more specific, really dedicated program that we're focused on in the economic growth of the region. And in economic development, the very most basic thing you can do is support your existing businesses. It's always great when we can get a business from another state or a new business and they make this big announcement, they're going to add 200 jobs and build this huge new facility. Those are awesome. That's a home run. They don't come by every day. It's very challenging. There's very few projects each year where companies are looking, and you're competing against everyone else in the country, often everyone else in the globe as well. So the easiest, best way to grow your jobs are with the businesses that you already have in your region. And it's always important. You think about a customer base. You want to take care of your base customers. And that's what an existing business program does. So it starts with business visitation. And this is the partnership that we formed with the Regional Water Authority through a grant that the Regional Water Authority has continued to fund at the Chamber, where we have a full-time person in our economic development role now. That position is supported with grant dollars through the RWA. And their role is to be out meeting with businesses all the time, but in a very specific way. I talk to businesses every day, but that is not what business retention and expansion is. It's about going out, visiting with businesses, having a set list of questions, talking to the top decision maker at those businesses, asking the same questions across the board so that we can measure the results. We can measure if we went talked to someone 3 years ago, have things gotten better or not? And that's what we do. We have a specific list of questions that we ask about how things are going, what are the products that you have here, what are the biggest challenges that you are facing, do you have an opportunity to expand? And so through doing that, we've been meeting with more than 75 businesses for each year. We continue to build upon that, talking to over 400 businesses across the region and finding out the issues that are facing them so that we can eliminate some of the barriers. It informs us all of the time about, hey, what are the challenges about being in Greater New Haven? Okay, those are either things that we can address as a chamber by providing additional resources, or maybe it's a public policy issue, and so it becomes part of our policy effort. A lot of times it's things that we were already aware of, but it gives us more ammunition in talking about a specific policy issue to say that, hey, we've talked to 75 businesses this year, and 60% of them said this is the number one issue impacting their business. Also, through doing those visits, though, we find out about businesses that are either considering leaving. Now, most of the time we're not dealing with that, but we can find out about a negative situation a little bit early than we would have if you just open up the newspaper, find out about it. And so it gives you an opportunity to intervene, or about an expansion opportunity. A lot of times businesses are not advertising that they are considering expanding, especially if they have multiple locations, some in different states. And so there may be an internal competition going on within the company. Let's say they have a facility in Ohio and a facility in Connecticut. There may be an internal competition going on about where the expansion is going to occur. And it's very difficult as a locality, a state, an economic development organization, if you never even got a chance to make your pitch because you weren't aware of the situation that's going on. And so that's one of the things that we really hope for, and we've had success with this program of where you start talking to a business and inevitably it just comes out and goes, boy, you know what? Yeah, we are thinking about expanding, and maybe the plant manager was being the advocate for that location, but they're not armed with all the information that I may have, or the town may have, or the state of Connecticut may have, to be able to be part of the advocacy. And so we can then inform them. Maybe there's some incentives, maybe there's just different programs that will make it easier. So puts us in a great position. Been able to work on over 30 projects where we're not aware of them, and it's resulted in the retention of hundreds of jobs and addition of close to another extra 100 jobs just through those projects that we find out about when we're talking with businesses. So an incredible opportunity. It's a great program that we continue to do. Work closely with all of our other economic development partners, whether that's the towns that we serve. We're constantly talking with them. Our regional groups like REX, which is an economic development organization, supports the region. Advanced CT, the state of Connecticut. Economic development is a team sport. It's not for one organization. It's not for taking credit by any one organization. It's how can we all work together to retain and grow businesses in our region. That has such a huge trickle-down effect across the entire region. It adds jobs. It adds more water users if families are in a better position. It adds additional jobs for service industries, other companies, to service those people who are now working at those companies. And what we hear too is that business people love hearing that someone cares about them being here.
Yeah.
Many people have probably seen stories in the news where you have other states coming to Connecticut, trying to poach our businesses, talking to them, hey, come to South Carolina, come to Florida, wherever. It happens all the time. It's nothing in particular to Connecticut. Northeast states generally are more targeted by some of the other states because there's historically a lot of high costs. But it happens. But what we have to be is active and engaged and involved with our businesses so that when they get that call, they know that there are people in Connecticut that care that they are located here. And so even just that sometimes is a really important side effect of going on these visits, is just knowing that, hey, the town cares that I'm here. The business community cares that I'm located here. And if I have a problem, I have someone I can go to. Now, that already exists before we do this program. People know, hey, I'm in the town, and I know who the mayor or first selectman is. But it's a really outward approach to it. It's doubling down on it. And sometimes that's, people need that extra reassurance that, we really care that your business is located here, and we really want to see you expand and help you do that.
And being the chamber, you really have your hands on some of the resources that company may not even know existed, right? I mean, you're almost acting as the general manager of a sports team, kind of bringing in the right resources you need to win. And yeah, so you're kind of at the center, kind of the nucleus of this whole thing. I wanted to ask, so you've done a lot of these visits. Have any themes emerged as you're talking that, like certain challenges that you've seen as a theme, or is it all just completely different?
Well, number one is workforce, and we could talk about that a lot.
Yep, we're going to talk about that.
all of our businesses, even before the pandemic, but then even especially through the pandemic, workforce is the number one issue. Retaining talent, attracting talent for their positions across the board, and the numbers just support it from the businesses that we speak with. Other issues come up, definitely regulatory environment, depending on the type of industry. Really, our businesses, they all want to abide by regulations. They just want a fair shake, consistent measures by what they're judged against, consistency from the regulators that they're working with, so that they're not surprised. They know what they need to do to be able to take care of the issues that are out there. So regulatory comes up on a regular basis. Cost of doing business is always going to be out there too. And we are in a high cost state, the Northeast in general. No one's going to be surprised by that. No business is going to be surprised by that. But it's not something we should just say, well, that's what it is. We're in a high cost state. We should all be always looking about how can we keep the cost of doing business as low as possible in Connecticut, because that does make a difference, especially when a location is competing against other locations across the country. Now, listen, we bring in other benefits by being here in Connecticut with a highly educated workforce. That workforce, a lot of times, even if it is a higher cost to operate here, is what will cause a business to stay here. It's not just a dollars and cents, because having that type of skilled workforce really does impact the bottom line as well. But it's not something we should ever just shrug our shoulders at. We should always be focused on how do we keep Connecticut as competitive from a cost standpoint as possible.
Yeah, it makes so much sense. You can't just kind of concede the point that we're a high-cost state. You try and do what you can. You get up to Hartford. You talk to the decision makers. You get bills introduced. You're not always going to be successful, but at least you're trying, right?
Definitely.
So you talked about workforce, and it's something near and dear to me and workforce development. So nationwide, 45% of utility workers could retire today with their full pensions without losing a dime. We could just lose 40% of our workforce. So at the water company, at RWA, it's about the same, could be closer to 50%. So I like to call it the silver tsunami, and I've heard other folks use that, and I think it's a good term. So I guess, what is the chamber doing? What kind of programs do you have for workforce development? And when I think about workforce development too, I'm a huge advocate of not every kid is meant to go to college, right? And there's a lot of jobs out there that will give you a very comfortable living without you stepping foot on a college campus. And so as the chamber, I guess you'll tell me about the different programs, but I'd love to get your thoughts and the chamber's thoughts on workforce development as it stands from like a trade school, trade training perspective.
Yeah, we're always talking about that there's great opportunities through going through the trade schools, learning the trades, to be able to get engaged. I think it's a lot of it is just information, getting the information out to the students so they can make the informed decision for themselves about what's the best pathway. And obviously there's lots of different skills for people to focus on nowadays, depending on the type of work that they want to go into. We do several things from the workforce development standpoint. And, 5 years ago, this was not something that the chamber was extremely involved in, but through the work with the RWA and doing these business visits, it just became abundantly clear this is a place we need to be at.
So workforce development's really one of those things that sprung directly from this business retention and expansion program.
Exactly. It's something it's critical to our businesses, so it's a topic area. Now, we don't do any I'm always very careful about this. We don't run any training programs, do any training through the chamber, but what the chamber is a convening point for the business community to tell us about their workforce needs, and then for us to convey that out to our other partners. And we have close partnerships with New Haven Public Schools, other school districts, with all the universities that we talked about, workforce training programs, groups like Workforce Alliance, the Office of Workforce Strategy at the state, the Governor's Workforce Council. So many different partners. So it really makes the chamber a hub for information, and that's what we can share. And what we use a program called Talent Pipeline Management that was developed by the U.S. Chamber of Commerce. No direct affiliation between the two chambers, but something that we've really leaned into. It's a data-driven process, working with organizations, with those businesses, to clearly identify what they need for critical jobs. And so we can build a talent pipeline based off of actual numbers, not just guessing around how many jobs we think are going to be in that. We convene all of the industry partners. We drill down into their data about what they're looking for, how many openings they expect to have in a specific job opening. For instance, we did this with manufacturers a couple of years ago, and just with 14 manufacturers, we found that we were going to have more than 400 openings for machine operators. So, that really jumped off the page to everyone when you start aggregating all the information of so many different partners. And then we take that information, and once we have a really good understanding of what all of the employers need, then we turn to our education talent providers, and we work together, bringing the business community together to say, hey, this is working, this is not, or these are the skills that are needed for these positions. How can we build a talent pipeline to get to this point? And so we have 3 collaboratives that we work really closely with: healthcare, bioscience, and manufacturing. We've had a lot of conversations about utility, and including the water jobs. And there's a lot of similarities with some of the manufacturing positions as well. So rolling some differences. Also, a lot of this work, too, has led into career awareness. So we're much more into the high schools and talking with kids and bringing business people in to talk to kids about what those jobs are. I think one of the huge opportunities that is out there is to let kids know about the jobs that exist. For kids who are coming from maybe a difficult upbringing, that gives them something to look at, something to become, something to aim for. But also, if you're just languishing and not really sure what you want to do, doesn't mean you'll necessarily get the answer or that's the job you're going to get into, but you're going to get a look into the future of what you could be, the types of things you need to be able to do to get there. So our workforce development efforts have really continued to expand wherever we see the need. And at the end of the day, though, it's built on those relationships that we have with the business community and then with all of our partners.
Yeah, and even at the RWA, for folks that are in school right now, we've partnered with Gateway and with Southern Connecticut on a public utility management program, and we've, along with our other utility companies, to offer these classes to teach kids what it's like to work at a utility and to manage a utility and to run a utility. I always tell folks, it sounds boring working for a water company, but we need engineers, we need accountants, we need communications people like me, we need scientists. And if you're a young person listening right now, I'll let you in on a little secret. If you get a license to operate a water treatment plant or a sewer treatment plant, it's gold. There is so much competition, not only in Connecticut, but in the entire country, for licensed water and sewer operators. You can pretty much name your own price with a lot of utilities at this point if you have that license. It's not terribly easy to get. You got to know your science and your math and all that. But once you have that license, you will get letters in the mail every day from water or sewer utilities begging you to come work for them. You will have a job for life. I've seen it in New Jersey. I've seen it in New York, and I've seen it here. I just saw an article, a town in this area is desperate for a licensed sewer operator for their sewer treatment plant
Wow.
in town, and the reason they're desperate is because another town stole their operator, paid them almost twice as much. So if you're listening and you're looking for a good career where you'll have a job for life, licensed sewer water operators, job for life. And again, there's plenty of jobs out there. You don't need to go to college. A lot of the utility companies, I can only speak for the utilities, will train you. We'll hire you. We will train you for those jobs. We have apprenticeship programs that will help train you for those jobs. So the opportunities are out there, and the chamber is making sure that everybody knows about those opportunities, both from a training perspective and from the idea of the companies that need those positions. As I said, I'm very passionate about workforce development. So we talked a little bit about big business, small business. What are some of the specific initiatives that your chambers have to support small businesses? I feel like we've talked a lot about big business.
Yeah, we work with small business all the time. We have a small business support specialist. That's another grant supported position through the Community Foundation for Greater New Haven, also along with our work with the City of New Haven. And yeah, small businesses come in multiple different sizes and places of where they sit, what they need to be able to be successful. I think a lot of times people focus on, and we do too, entrepreneurs who are just getting started. But we have a lot of small businesses out there, especially a lot of our BIPOC-owned businesses who just need more access and opportunity. And so being able to support that, open those doors, and really promote them and the opportunities that they have, and be able to promote opportunities to them is really important work. Sometimes too it comes down to very simple things. I mean, as a small business owner, you really need to know so much, and frequently someone starts a small business because they know one thing very well. They know how to do something very well, and they're turning that into a business. But I mean, to actually get that business off the ground, you need to know how to balance your books. Maybe you need to learn how to do QuickBooks. You need
An idea is not a business.
Right. You need to communications, management, HR, all these things that you're going to have to do, and you're not going to have the resources of a big business right away. Hopefully you can become that. So it's a lot of strain on a small business, a lot of strain on individuals. So to the extent that we can help people, we can lead them in the right direction. That's what we try to do.
Great, and we got a few minutes left, and I wanted to touch on one other thing that the chamber is doing. It's inclusive growth initiative. Can you talk a little bit about what that is?
Yeah, definitely. So we're really fortunate under our past board chair, Howard K. Hill. Really, Howard and I and our entire board focused on, what can the chamber do to support BIPOC-owned, diverse-owned businesses across our region. And we decided to create a new position that we're only able to do with the support of the Community Foundation for Greater New Haven, inclusive growth coordinator role. Jesse Phillips serves that position for us. Many people know Jesse across the community, and it takes on many different roles. It's really about creating those connection points, identifying needs. We have a lot of businesses who have said they have lofty goals of diversifying procurement, doing more within their own organization. So we try to support them with best practices. How do you get from a vision statement to actual impact and outcomes, working closely with business, and then also identifying all of those great businesses, diverse-owned businesses that we have in the region, and connecting them with opportunities.
All right, and last question, Garrett. Why Greater New Haven?
Greater New Haven, well, we talked about it first. The connection point of all of these universities, the innovation that occurs here, it's a way for even our businesses to connect in to those universities. So it's great to have that, the energy that we see from all of those young people, but our entire workforce. We have a really well-educated workforce that keeps businesses here. We're in a great location, not just because we're in between Boston and New York, but being right here on the water, the quality of life. But there is a lot of incredible transportation options and lots of great businesses that are here that people want to work for, but also do business with. A lot of incredible businesses that have been formed here and continue to stay here. And then the last thing I would say is the entrepreneurial spirit that we have in Greater New Haven. because the next big company is out there right now. We don't know who it is, but we know we're going to have more businesses. You just look at what's happened in our bioscience sector. We have other sectors where we're coming on strong, whether it's quantum computing now, green technology, so many other opportunities, and people want to be in Greater New Haven.
And we have the best water in the country.
I didn't forget about
Yes.
that. That is for sure.
Well, Garrett, thank you for joining us. One thing I want the listeners to take away from today's Liquid Lunch is that the Greater New Haven Chamber of Commerce really has resources for businesses of all sizes. They're really dedicated to the success of all businesses and the success of the region, because you can't be successful as a region unless your businesses are successful and they have the tools to thrive and survive. And Garrett and his team are really giving businesses those resources. So thank you for that, Garrett. You've been listening to Liquid Lunch with the Regional Water Authority, and today we were joined by Garrett Sheehan, who is the President and CEO of the Greater New Haven Chamber of Commerce. If you missed any portion of today's show, you can go to New Haven Independent's YouTube page and Twitter page and Facebook page and anywhere else that the New Haven Independent can be found. So we'll close today's show by raising a glass of water and giving a toast. Cheers to staying informed, hydrated, engaged with Liquid Lunch. Join us for another edition of Liquid Lunch 2 weeks from right now, and thank you for listening.